guys, look what I just made. A beautiful pizza, and the toppings that I had on hand today, I had some spinach, I had some red Fresno peppers, I had lots of mushrooms and some red onion there. Nice brown crust. This is a delicious pizza. I'm not actually going to do my taste today because I didn't want to cut it up. I wanted it in its whole untouched glory to show it to you. But homemade pizza is delicious. It makes your house smell wonderful. It's cheaper than delivery or going somewhere. So I'm going to show you how to make everything right from scratch. Here we go. To make the pizza dough, what you're going to need is some all-purpose flour, some instant yeast, also known as quick rise yeast, some sugar, this is sugar here, some regular basic salt, and some olive oil. And for this, you definitely want to use olive oil, not another type, mainly for the flavor of olive oil. Okay, so I'll let you know what the first step is. Okay, the first part and the most important part is measuring the flour accurately, which we're going to do by weight. So I have my little scale right here, and it's set for grams. It's set for grams. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put the small bowl on top, and then we're going to tare, T-A-R-E, press that so it's 0 again. So what I want is 300 grams of flour. Why don't you come around here so you can see me doing this, see if you can focus on that. So 300 grams, I'm just dumping it in. I'm not measuring it with measuring cups. We're just going to keep going until we hit 300 grams. Let's see here. It's a little bit more. Getting closer. Even closer. A little bit much. And there you go. 300 grams. Okay. I'll let you know what to put in next. Okay, so I already have my flour that I measured before in the small bowl. We're going to set that aside. Now I've got a large bowl here. Okay. And into it, in this little guy, I have 1.5 teaspoons of sugar and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So in it goes. I also have my envelope of yeast. Now at school, you're probably not going to have an envelope of yeast. It's going to be a bigger container. So I will let you know by measurement how much yeast to put in, but I have a packet, so I use all of it. So there's my yeast. Okay. Then I'm also going to take some of my flour, not all of it. I'm just going to scoop out roughly a cup of the flour and put it into that bowl too. Now what do? I'm just going to give it a mix. Just like that, I'm just going to give it a mix. Okay. So the next thing we're going to deal with is the liquid ingredients, the water and the oil. I'll come right back. Okay. So in terms of water, you need 2/3 of a cup. Go right down to this level to see 2/3 of a cup water. And it needs to be warm. So I've put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And it looks like it's about, you can see about 100, over 100. As long as it's less than about 130, you're fine. If it's more than 130, you're going to kill the yeast, and that's not good. Now, the other liquid ingredient we have is oil. And since the olive oil, and the water go in both at the same time, it makes sense to measure them into the exact same thing. So first you measure the 2/3 cup of water, and then you're going to measure right on top of that 3 full tablespoons of olive oil. And I am putting in 3 tablespoons, not 3 teaspoons. If you put in 3 teaspoons, you are doing it wrong and your recipe will suffer. And make sure you get full tablespoons of oil. Okay, you can stir that up if you want, but it doesn't matter because the oil will rise to the top because oil is lighter than water. Okay, so this mixture is going to go into our big bowl where we put the flour, the sugar, and the salt. We're going to pour that yeast oil mixture in there. And we're just gonna stir it up. You can use a metal spoon like I have, or a wooden spoon. And it's gonna have kind of an oatmeal-y look here. But we still have a whole lot more flour that I'm gonna get here. So I'm gonna add some more of this flour, probably about half of it. So there's still some left behind. Adding it in, mixing it up. There we go. And you can see it starts to really clump together. It's looking less liquidy, more pizza dough-like. Okay. And it looks like I need to add some more of the flour. Never just dump in all the flour all at once, because you don't quite know how much you need until you're kind of doing it. Okay, this is looking good. It should be harder to do. It should be tiring for your arm to do this because the dough keeps getting stiffer and stiffer. Okay. But that is looking pretty good. Okay, and I will show you what to do next, which is going to be the kneading part. Okay, so I still haven't used all the flour that's in the bowl, but I have my dough that I mixed up and it's on my countertop. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to knead this dough. And if it starts getting really sticky and sticking to my hands, then I could add in some of that flour there. Remember to knead, you're going to be using the palms of your hands, not your fingers, your palms. And basically you're pushing on this dough. The dough is very rough right now, but I want to knead it until it's nice and smooth. And like I said, if it starts getting a little sticky, add a little flour to it. But so far, so good. Starting to get a little sticky, just a little bit of flour more. Now, how come you don't just dump in all the flour all at once? Well, because you may not need it. And actually, it's better to use just as much flour that you need versus using too much flour. And believe it or not, a lot of it depends on what kind of day it is outside. If it's a very dry day, that will affect things. If it's a moist, wet day, like if it's raining or if it's really overcast, that can affect things too. If it's a dry day, you probably don't need as much flour. If it's a more moist, wet day outside, you probably are gonna need maybe all of that flour. Just like this. So this is looking good. I'm gonna knead this dough for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like at that point. Okay, I have this beautiful, now smooth ball of dough, just like that. And I want you to see something. I did not end up using all of the flour. And yet, my hands have no stickiness on them at all. Again, if you don't need to use all the flour, you shouldn't. And you know, knowing if you need more flour or not, that's where experience comes in, but that's why you're watching this, is to kind of learn the whys of things. So I have a bag labeled. I'm gonna spray it with cooking spray inside. And in goes the dough ball. Okay, we're gonna seal this up and squeeze out the air. Okay. Now, this dough should go into the refrigerator for several hours, or even better, overnight. Like for us, it'll be in there overnight. And then we will make pizza out of it. But that is the first step, which is making your own pizza dough. Okay, so it is several hours since I made our pizza dough. If you take a look at it, it's definitely bigger and puffier than it was when right when I made it. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some flour. This is actually some of the leftover flour that I didn't need for the dough. And I'm going to sprinkle it on my countertop. For you, it's just going to be right on the green countertop, because you don't want the pizza to stick to the countertop, otherwise it's kind of a real pain. Okay, so we're gonna get our dough and we're gonna take it out. Come on, dough. All right, there we go. Okay, now, and this is a big one, try not to touch it any more than you need to. I'm going to, this is a rolling pin. I'm gonna get some flour on my rolling pin, okay? And I'm gonna roll it out. Now this is the pizza pan that we'll be using in class, and the yellow stuff you see there, that's some cornmeal. So what I wanna do is I wanna roll it out to about the same circumference as, or diameter as the pizza pan. So I'm gonna do that. If you've done your dough right, it shouldn't be that hard to roll out. Now the real trick is keeping it in a circle, and that takes a little bit of trial and error. I like to lift it up, make sure it's not sticking, giving it a turn, trying to keep it as much in a circle as possible. Notice I'm changing direction on the direction that I'm using the rolling pin. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Still nice in a circle. Okay. Now, what you don't want to do, guys, is if you're getting frustrated on the shape of it, don't roll it back, grab it up and roll it back into a ball and start over, because now it's going to be much tighter and much harder to do. Do this in one shot. If it's not a perfect circle, that's okay, because you can make it work. You can work it into the pie pan, into the pizza pan. So let's take this pizza pan and see. See how there's still a lot of dough around the sides? That's good. That means it's big enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take this and put it in here. And as you can see, it's definitely big enough. See how it's hanging off the side? Just like that. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna work it into the pizza pan, and I'm gonna fold this under. Fold that under so it form fits. And I'll show you what that looks like when we come back. Okay, take a good look at this. There you go, it's nice. I got a nice ridge up here. So the next step I'm gonna do, oh, by the way, I almost forgot. Before you start rolling out the dough and everything, you wanna preheat the oven to 450. You wanna get that done first before you start doing anything else, because it takes a while for the oven to get up to 450. Okay, so back to this. We have the pizza dough all ridged in the pan like that. Now you're gonna take a fork and you're gonna prick it all over like that. Don't be shy. You can get the outside too, just like that. Now why this step? It's to try to prevent air bubbles from forming. You know, sometimes a pizza has like a big air bubble underneath it. This is to prevent that from happening. It's not fail-safe. Sometimes it happens anyway, but at least it helps to prevent that from happening. So it should look very, very dotted by the time you're done. Okay, and we'll come back and I'll tell you what the next step is. Okay, so I just pricked the pizza all over with a fork, and what this is a little cup of just a little bit of olive oil in there, and the pastry brush. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna brush some olive oil on the outer edge of the pizza pan. Why am I doing that? For flavor and for a nice golden color. I may not need all the olive oil here. Probably I won't. Look at that, the pizza's turning for me. It's helping me out here. That's very nice. Okay, just this outer edge here. Beautiful. Okay. Now, before any toppings go on it, I am going to pre-bake this pizza. for about 5 to 7 minutes, meaning I'm going to put it in the oven right now as is before any toppings at all are on it. Why am I going to do that? So that the dough gets a jump start in baking. If I didn't pre-bake this first, if I just put the toppings on now and baked it, by the time the toppings were done, the crust wouldn't have had enough time to bake and it would be soft and doughy underneath, and we don't want that. So this is going to go into the 450-degree oven for 5 to 7 minutes, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about toppings. Okay, so the dough is pre-baking in the oven right now as we speak. Now we're going to talk about toppings and stuff like that. First of all, this is the pizza sauce that I made, and I will show you guys how to make this as well. Actually, it'll be right there on the recipe, this nice homemade pizza sauce. And I also have some mozzarella cheese that I've shredded right here. And then for the other toppings, this is where if you're at home, of course, you can do whatever you want. I'm using what I have at home. So here's what I have. You can take a look down here. I have a whole bunch of mushrooms. I may not use all this mushrooms, but my family, we love mushrooms. I have some red onion, and I have these red chilies. These are called Fresno chilies that we happen to have. And I also have some spinach in a bag that's left over that I don't have any plans for. So we'll be using those things when the dough comes out of the oven, and we'll put this all on it, and we're getting that much closer to a finished pizza. Be right back. Okay, so the pizza has come out of its pre-bake, and I have the sauce. So I'm gonna pour the sauce, I'm gonna use it all, onto the pizza. It may not look like a whole lot of sauce, but you know, if you drown the pizza in sauce, what happens is it becomes very, very kind of floppy and gummy, and that we don't want. So I'm gonna get the sauce pretty close to the edge there. Oh, notice I'm using the back of a spoon to spread it out, which is a good way to do it. So there we go. Okay. And now next comes the cheese. Okay. So you want to get that nice cheesy cheese on there. I may not use all of this cheese. I want it cheesy, but I don't want to go absolutely insane with the cheese because I do have so many toppings. But I mean, if you put this in the pizza right here as is, it'd be a wonderful pizza as is. But let's face it, the toppings are the fun part. Okay, so there's the cheese. Now I'm gonna go to the toppings. Oh boy. Like I said, my family loves mushrooms. So I'm gonna put as much of these beautiful mushrooms as I can. And actually, I will come back when I've made this pizza just how I want it. So you'll see what that looks like in a second. Okay, so I have designed my pizza here with all the toppings that I showed you. Turns out we didn't use all those mushrooms, but we have a lot of stuff here. Today it's a vegetarian pizza. Normally we'll do some kind of meat on top, but we didn't have it today, so this is what you got. And this is gonna go back into the oven for probably approximately 10 minutes until it looks absolutely beautiful, and I'll show you what that looks like. And here we have it, the finished pizza. Notice I got the crust nice and brown. Hear that? That is a nice, hard, crispy, crunchy crust, the way I like it. And I will slice this up, and it will be my family's dinner right now, tonight. And it's gonna be delicious, and I hope you try it at home.